Tired? Have a coffee. Feeling sad? Order a takeaway. Feeling lonely? Watch a YouTube video. We all have our vice of choice.
Ooh, order some food. Yum, yum, yum. Chicken nuggets.
For me, it was social media, food, and caffeine. Not even the Greek leaders or Egyptian pharaohs had access to the things we do. While elites of the Roman Empire could get a front row viewing to watch a gladiator flog a medieval peasant, you can watch a giraffe fight, an orangutan boxing match, or Eddie Hall on a rampage for free from your bedroom. The privileged ancient Greeks could enjoy some berries as a treat, but you could purchase this thing. Wealthy 18th century Americans could enjoy a luxurious imported coffee, while you can order enough pre-workout to revive Harambe directly.
Man, it is so true, man. We are so fucked. Our dopamine receptors are shot.
To your doorstep. Great, right? I thought so too, until the lockdown when things started feeling off. Despite having more free time and fewer responsibilities, I struggled to focus on my degree. I was the most round I've ever been. I slept poorly and felt deeply dissatisfied. After going down the overstimulation rabbit hole, I was driven to make massive changes. I want to try and spark the same for you.
Damn.
So here's what I learned about overstimulation and how it may be ruining your health, both physically and mentally.
Oh, I totally agree. Sometimes I just sit in my chair and I just do nothing. I'm not even joking sometimes, chat. 30 minutes before bed, sometimes I just sit in my chair for like 10 minutes and I just do nothing. I just kind of rock back and forth. It's nice. You should do that sometime. Yeah, it's nice to do that before bed. You just don't look anything and then you just kind of like just rocking your chair a little bit. I'll go outside. That works too. Go for a little walk. Yeah. It helps.
Travel and entertainment have never been so convenient, and technology never so advanced. The average American consumes more calories than ever before. 2 hours and 24 minutes.
Wait, let me see that.
The average American consumes more calories than ever.
1961, 2,880. Now we're 3,600. Let's go! K-Kona! Get them gains!
Before.
Number
2 hours and 24
1.
minutes is the average time spent on social media, with 144 phone checks a day. The medical
Didn't they show that there was a Pavlovian response with like with phone dings and vibrations, even though they had phantom vibrations in their phones? It like makes people grab their phone. They think that it vibrates, but nothing actually happens. Yeah, it's fucked, man.
Stimulant prescriptions have nearly doubled from 2011 to 2022.
Doubled?
Yep, the number of cases of worldwide depression between 1990 and 2017 have increased by almost 50%. Perhaps none of these apply to you, but you still struggle to watch a video without going to the comments, work without caffeine, or focus without titillating music. This affects everyone, from athletes.
I don't know. I mean, I drink 1 cup of coffee a day. Is that bad? I feel like that's not bad. It's maximum 1 cup of coffee. No, that's fine. Yeah, I know there's people who drink like 6 cups of coffee a day, and that's insane.
Leads to actors. Despite access to more sources of pleasure than ever before, it seems like we're more miserable, dependent, and overstimulated. The average American is overweight, 1 in 3 report insufficient sleep, and America has hit an all-time low on the Global Happiness Report.
Even though we have Amazon, we have movies, we have video games, and all these things, and we're miserable. We need a global reset, chat. We gotta chill the fuck out.
Between 2000 and 2018, eating disorders more than doubled. Meanwhile, the leading causes of death in middle-aged Americans without a college degree are what Princeton economists refer to as deaths of despair. How can this be happening? Dr. Lember suggests that these trends occur not in spite of our increased ability to avoid discomfort, but perhaps because of our efforts to evade it. Dopamine is the brain's main chemical of want and desire. In a study on genetically modified rats, incapable of producing dopamine, food was placed just inches away from their mouths and they starved to death. Dopamine is vital for incentive motivation. It drove our
That's fucked, dude.
ancestors to forage for food, hunt, and seek out partners, and it's why it feels
Hated
so
this
good to
movie.
eat a delicious meal. But over time, we've become better at finding ways to trigger more dopamine in our brain's reward pathways. In rats,
And now our dopamine receptors are fried. That's how drug addiction works too. I've heard of stories of I don't know why, but when I was younger, like 16 years old, I used to watch really miserable documentaries to make me feel better about my life, and it made me thankful for what I have. And I watched documentaries of drug addicts explaining how horrible their life used to be and how it still affects them. And there was one story that stuck with me that was about a woman that was really addicted to heroin, and she says that like nothing after heroin ever made her feel happy ever again, because her receptors are so fried that like everything is flat, like food, sex, like sleeping, like seeing her children being happy. It's all just like monotone. And in the back of your head, it's just a constant desire for heroin. And that's what we're reaching, except it's like we're getting overstimulated with dopamine. We're not frying them to the level of like actual like hard drugs, but it's getting there. It's really bad.
chocolate increased the basal output of dopamine in the brain by 55%, sex by 100%, nicotine 150%,
Damn.
cocaine 225%, and amphetamines by 1000%. But everything which goes up must come
Oh, this animation made me sad, bro. I've seen this animation of the little kiwi that fucks itself up with drugs.
down. Neuroscientists
It's sad.
have identified that both pleasure and pain are processed in the same overlapping brain regions. In other words, it operates like a seesaw, with pain on one side and pleasure on the other. Our brains like to maintain a state of balance. This is something that Socrates noticed thousands of years ago, stating how strange it is that a man cannot have both pleasure and pain at the same time. Yet, when he pursues and catches one, he's sure to meet the other as well. With every
That's
hit,
deep.
it becomes less pleasurable as we build up a tolerance.
Heavy exposure or use of any highly dopaminergic drug, I need more and more to get the same effect. Over time, I experience less pleasure when I'm not using that drug. So you're in a dopamine deficit state.
And that's why drug addicts sometimes, when you're really like drug addicted and you're not in rehab, they try to do resets because they start taking so much of a specific drug that it starts killing them, and they're like, okay, I gotta reset, and then it makes it feel a little bit better again.
So what does
Yeah.
that mean? That means you are more unhappy than your baseline.
This is a paradox of hedonism, or the pursuit of pleasure. It can lead to anhedonia, or the inability to enjoy pleasure of any kind. And this
And that's what drug addicts, after they get clean, they that's what they experience.
is just a dilemma today. With so much easy access to cheap thrills, our dopamine reward centers are being hyped
I can't wait for the day where we have the stupid Google glasses and we get the fed like streams as we're grocery shopping and ads, unskippable ads. Dude, I can't wait. It's going to be so awesome. I can't wait to watch HoloLive in VR in my eyeball.
hijacked. In the words of Dr. Finnegan, we're like cacti in the rainforest, drowning in overabundance. But here's the thing, most of us know that Class A substances are bad. People who argue that social media is as bad as meth are probably being a bit dramatic, or that
They're not, man. They're
sugar's
not.
the new tobacco. While less dopamine inducing, these things are almost unavoidable. I mean, you can't just abstain from food or the internet, and because of this,
Well, there's an actual fact with McDonald's, the reason why they sell you the drink. So you guys know how when you buy a meal at McDonald's, but when you buy the things separately, it's somehow more expensive? The reason they give you the drink is because you're addicted to the sugar after the really salty meal, and it's like part of the deal. They try to get you hooked. It's an association thing. Yeah, that's why they make you buy the meal, because it's cheaper. And there's extra soda syrup too. Yeah, that too. That's why Sprite at McDonald's or Burger King tastes better than the Sprite in a bottle.
addiction is much more common. It affects everyone, whether you're a doctor, a rat, or even Spider-Man. In an old study on rats, they were hooked up to a machine and could achieve stimulation by pressing a lever on either side of the cage.
It was somewhat different than rewarding stimulation for food and water in that there was no satiation. Animals would continue for hours and hours and didn't seem to satiate. They didn't feel full. They would just keep doing it for long periods of time. They would do it to
Chat, we are the rats. This is a very famous experiment. They essentially die, man.
exhaustion.
They then electrified the bottom of the grid, making it very painful to run across.
And a rat wanting brain stimulation would brave a shock stronger than even a starving rat would brave to get food.
This shows a rat is willing to pay a very high price in order to get to the pedal.
Human addicts will pay just as high a price for their rewards.
That's why I feel so bad for addicts. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just a really empathetic person, but I feel like my brain chemistry really changed when I watched those documentaries about drug addicts, bro. People always tell me, like, oh, you're a drug addict, it's horrible, like, it's like, they kind of deserve it. It's like, man, everyone has their different stories, man. It's sad. It's very, very sad what drugs do to you.
In another study, 42 people were to sit alone in a room for 15 minutes with a button that would give them an electric shock. Out of the 18 men, 12 decided to press the button, on average 1.47 times.
Of course they did. I would want to zap someone's balls for the memes.
With one guy
shit.
pressing it 190 times. Suggesting that people don't like to be bored, perhaps prefer novel pain to boredom, and that someone in the study needs further evaluation.
That 190 button pressing was Fillion. She wanted to electrocute herself.
This is why mindless scrolling is so addictive, like a rat pulling levers for dopamine hits despite the harm. This behaviour contributed to my binge eating and caffeine dependence, and was the wake-up call I needed, because the consequences for us are much more long-lasting than an electric shock.
Oh,
We live in a hyperstimulated
Yes! Subway Surfers!
society. The most obvious addictions might be those involving food, with over 73% of Americans being overweight. I mean, this is the fattest man in the world. In 1890, people paid
And
to
this is the average American. Yeah! America #1!
see him. Today, he'd be unemployed. But even in healthy-looking people, the combination of overstimulating social media content and food likely has contributed to the rise in eating disorders such as binge eating. Personally, I thought I could look like an influencer in months with extreme dieting and training, but instead, I ended up binge eating and getting injured. The guilt fueled a repeating cycle. I looked physically healthy enough, but mentally I was struggling. A common issue in the fitness industry.
I thought binge eating and eating disorders were...
Was he like binge eating and then having episodes of throwing it up, or what? Or is it like different? I don't know how binge eating works when if you're like a really fit person, because they're like really cut and ripped too. Maybe just too much, I guess.
things for teenage girls at school who wanted to look better and succumbed to the pressures of social media. I can tell you that is absolutely not the case. The fitness industry is ripe with this.
This video is all about Americans. I got a newsflash for you. There's a lot of countries that are following America post haste because of all the oversaturated food that they're bringing over to EU. I'm just saying, Australia and the UK and Ireland and Scotland, like, they are definitely catching up. Yeah. It's gonna happen. You're laughing, but it's gonna come for you.
Full-blown binge eating disorder, and like it feels so weird to even say that, and again, I didn't want to admit it to myself at the time.
Addiction today is a lot more common than we'd like to admit, and it affects the best of us. Recently, I spoke to an elite sports sleep coach, to some of the world's best footballers about this. Is addiction common in Premier League football?
Common, Josh. There has been a growing addictive behaviour to a number of factors: caffeine, sleeping tablets, melatonin supplements, CBDs, and alcohol. You mentioned gambling. You think of a pyramid, or you think of the iceberg, and above the sea line, you can see that there's been an increase in these things being used. When you look below, it's much greater. and is growing much faster.
Oh yeah.
You just can't, it's not being revealed as much.
Caffeine is one of those things that I think is like, we had tobacco and caffeine for millions of years. We cultivated it. Not maybe millions, let's say thousands. Let's say for thousands of years we had caffeine and all that stuff. I think that drugs and social media and phones are just way, way, way worse. They're so much worse, man.
I probably spend 50% of my time using my technique to get people away from that process.
The ease of access and normalization of these things is what makes them so harmful.
So we know from the research literature that the more you use social media, the more likely you are to feel lonely or isolated. We know that the constant exposure to your friends' carefully curated positive portrayals of their life can leave you to feel inadequate and can increase rates of depression.
True.
So it's one thing to spend a couple hours at the slot machine in Las Vegas, but if you bring a slot machine with you and you pull that handle all day long from when you wake up to when you go to bed, we're not wired from it. It short circuits the brain, and we're starting to find that it has actual cognitive consequences, one of them being this sort of pervasive background hum of anxiety.
Because we don't just overeat, gamble, or doom scroll to chase pleasure.
Everyone's kind of hung up on.
Oh, and then doom scrolling is another thing. That's like the opposite. It's like the rat pulling the lever to get pain, man. Or like zapping your balls. People love doom scrolling.
Dopamine, and dopamine's there, but I think a lot of the addictive qualities are about pushing the negativity away. So what we really see is a lot of emotional numbing.
This avoidance worsens relationships, presence, and mental well-being.
The more that we externalize our attention, we reduce process times, emotional processing in the brain. As we reduce emotional processing in the brain, what do we see? A rise in just about every mental illness characteristic.
Overstimulation
Oh my god, man.
has also
What the hell?
contributed to our shrinking attention spans. Overstimulation has also contributed to our shrinking attention spans.
Holy.
How could I have expected myself to read Android documentation in class when I just double scoop pre-workout, listened to Gym Emo rock hype, and scrolled social media before? Meanwhile, I'm getting notifications. It sounds incredibly obvious, but while you're engaged in bad habits, it's difficult to spot. At the time, I thought I needed CBD or nootropics, which of course did not solve my problem. Our tendency to prefer immediate rewards over larger delayed ones is known as delay discounting, and it's exploited.
And you want instant gratification. That's why I have a lot. I've noticed this over time that people also want instant gratification. That's why a lot of people that come in and are like, hey, pay attention to me right now, and they can't give me like a second to chat. I noticed that over just a year of streaming. Streamer, now, I need dopamine. I'm not saying everyone is like this, absolutely not, but there's definitely kids who have that kind of like, I need it now, answer me, oh, streamer, miss my comment, I'm gonna type it for the 15th time, please. It's gotten worse, it really has. Push chat didn't used to be like this.
Exploited and normalized in today's environment of overabundance. The worrying thing about habits is that they compound.
If you were able to improve by 1% each day for an entire year, and those gains compound, you would end up 37 times better at the end of the year. And if you were to get 1% worse, you would whittle yourself almost all the way down to 0.
Now, you might have the same question I did at the time. If overstimulation is such an obvious problem, why is no one doing anything about it?
Because we're complacent. Atomic Habits is a great book. Yeah, bro. I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory or not, but I feel like people don't do anything about it because they're complacent and they want to keep you stupid. Like the government wants to keep you stupid to stop you from like doing things against them. I feel like it's not a government psyop, but like I feel like if they truly cared, they'd do something about it. Yeah, easier
The more
control.
something triggers dopamine, the more addictive it can be. This makes low-cost, instant, high dopamine products highly profitable. This is why companies like
McDonald's.
Nestle hire food scientists to optimize their chocolates and snacks to be as cheap and hyper-palatable as possible. Like in the story of Nauru, this can initially be good for the economy, until eventually 96% of people became overweight, and now it's a massive crisis. In response to the food environment, appetites
Yeah, Nauru is one of the most obese countries in the world because they had a bunch of westernized foods that came from like America, and now it's like absolutely fucked. Like everyone is fat because that's just how they were conditioned.
suppressing substances such as Wegovy have hit the market in an attempt to encourage people to eat less ultra-processed foods. Worried that this would dent demand for its food products, Nestle are now developing frozen pizzas enriched with vitamins and protein, specifically for Wegovy users.
Dude, Nestle is so evil. Dude, that is so evil. Nestle set to set $5 pizza sandwiches for Wegovy Ozempic users. Hold on, let me read this. Hold on. Nestle sells $5 pizzas to Ozempic users. Nestle sells their protein-enriched pastas in the United States, which it says it's designed to sell. Hold on. Let me find it. It developed new products with more protein, iron, and calcium for people taking the wildly popular appetite-suppressing drugs. Because you need more protein and calcium and iron when you're taking this drug. So they're getting you... Basically, they make you fat with these chocolates and all this crap that Nestle does. Then you take Ozempic or whatever, the weight loss drug that makes you not want to eat. And because the counter effect of the drug is that you need more protein and fat and calcium and iron, they make you buy that because you need to eat so much more. That's scary, dude. Yeah, that's fucked.
On podcasts, extreme guests are often chosen over more balanced guests because they attract more attention, often providing entertainment at the expense of misinformation.
The more time we spend jumping from bit of information to bit of information every couple of minutes during our day, the less we worry about how important something is, and the more we're simply attracted to whatever's new.
Cigarettes are rebranded as fun vapes. Meanwhile,
it is crazy to me that they have done absolutely nothing to counter this problem in kids, man. Oh, vaping's healthy. It's like, yeah, vaping is healthier than cigarettes if you're already addicted to fucking cigarettes, man. If you're a cigarette addict at like 60 years old and you can't stop smoking and you need a little bit of like a cigarette hit, but it's a vape, like that's fine. But you're a kid hooked on vapes and you never smoke cigarettes, that's absolutely fucked up.
these things are often marketed as healthier alternatives to more harmful products. However, in reality, they frequently replace genuinely healthy choices and perpetuate the path of least resistance, making it increasingly unconventional to prioritize health.
I decided to delete my Instagram because I just felt like I was so addicted to this kind of false version of my life that it was just taking over. I would be on set working, I'd come and sit in my chair and just scroll. So I decided to make an announcement, which unfortunately we have to do, and say that I'm taking a break from social media. And I try to position myself and say, like, I'm taking a break from social media because I feel like my mental health will benefit from it. And the thing that really upset me is the press ran with that. And they tried to make out that I was having this mental breakdown.
Yeah, it's sad. You can't even do that. You can't say, oh, I'm just stepping away from, like, from scrolling, bro.
Entertainment, snacks, and easy pleasures have their perks, but this perspective helped me realize I was unwittingly
People will praise you for stopping to eat donuts for 6 months, but they won't praise you for, like, deleting an Instagram. Is that fucking sad?
harming myself. Much like the rats pulling levers for others' gain, it's not a conspiracy. People like profit and rely on us staying in the overstimulation cycle. To paraphrase Carl Jung, until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life and you'll call it fate. Nobody's coming to help you. This is something you have to do for yourself. And sadly, a key solution to overstimulation is now somewhat overlooked.
But I don't want to do it for myself. I want the government to tell me what to do. Ain't that right, Chad? Ain't that right?
Most people don't know this, but there's a brain structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. But what's interesting about this brain area is there are now a lot of data in humans, not some mouse study, showing that when people do something they don't want to do, this brain area gets bigger.
Yep.
And by the way, I'm only learning this recently because it's new data. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex is smaller in obese people. It gets bigger when they diet. It's larger in athletes. And in people that live a very long time, this area keeps its size. In many ways, scientists are starting to think of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex not just as one of the seats of willpower,
Right.
but perhaps actually the seat of the will to live.
That's
Now we're
strong, dude.
In other words, pushing on the pain side of the equation can lead to pleasure. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This isn't a suggestion to start training in a sauna or to get your mate
Holy moly. Holy moly.
or to get your mate to cover you with a tire, but to
Manny.
seek out productive pain that takes you closer to where you want to be. Focus on your own consistent compounding progress and not others. As someone who struggled with these things more than average, I followed the advice of all these people in this video. Reduced social media to useful platforms like communities, ate mostly whole foods, and followed influencers for fitness coaches, took daily photos for accountability, and replaced excessive caffeine and doom scrolling with better sleep and reading. This won't make you a depressed robot. Food now tastes better, exercise is more enjoyable, and I can work less with better focus. Music, films, and eating out are now more enjoyable, and caffeine is a nice boost, not a necessity. It's always going to be a struggle, but controlling overstimulation completely transformed my life over the last 4 years. If I can do this, you can make massive progress too, whatever that looks like to you. If you have goals in our overstimulated world, regaining control isn't just a choice, it's vital for your mental health and physical well-being.
Chat, reset the cycle. Do it. Yeah, cut out beating
Athletic
off
Greens.
Cut out beating off 10 times a day.
Tired?
Is that it? Yeah, it is. Okay.